All right, we're back for week 7. I know it's been a while. The dozen people or so who watch these, I appreciate you sticking around and coming back for week 7. I didn't forget about you. Life is just crazy, and like I had said before, I just don't feel like I was giving the artist way the time it deserved, and I feel like I'm ready to get back at it. So I'm not done with this video series until I've done all of them, even if it takes me longer than I expected it to. But we're on week 7 here. Just to recap, since it's been a while, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, A Spiritual Path to Higher Creativity, A Course in Discovering and Recovering Your Creative Self, 30th Anniversary Edition. So it's a course more than it is a book. I do my morning pages every day with 3 pages. I have not done them, to be honest, in maybe a couple weeks, but we're still chugging along. And an artist date, once a week you go out and you do something to feed your creativity and feed your inner child, feed your inner artist, which I've done a little bit more of that, honestly. Maybe I had to get rid of the morning pages to kind of make room for the dates in my life personally, but yeah, so week 7 is where we're at. Recovering a sense of connection. I gotta say, by the way, I'm so excited to be back on this camera talking about The Artist's Way. I feel proud of myself to stick to it. Never did I think I'd be making a YouTube series, and I've been telling myself that I'm gonna do this series until it's done, like I just said. But I'm sticking to it, and I'm proud that I've made it this far, and I'm gonna be more proud when I'm finished. So let's get into it. Recovering a sense of connection. We turn this week to the practice of right attitudes for creativity. The emphasis is on your receptive as well as active skills. The essays, exercises, and tasks aim at excavating areas of genuine creative interest as you connect with your personal dreams. Connection. What I think of, and that's one of the first sections when it comes to connection, is the connection to the ideas that come to you. And that's the main goal of the morning pages, which are those 3 stream of consciousness pages that you're supposed to do every day, every morning. Those are just to allow the ideas to flow, get out of the way, let them all out, no matter how crazy it is. Even if you sound like an axe murderer, you get the pages out, you get the words out on the page. And I feel like that's the connection that first came to mind when I read that. And that's what it says. The pages train us to hear past our censor. The artist's dates help us to pick up the voice of inspiration. While both of these activities are apparently unconnected to the actual act of making art, they are critical to the creative process. Yeah, and I agree that. And let me get right into it. So, connection, I define that as listening and also accepting it in. So, you think about when you're connecting with someone, you're allowing them and their existence to kind of enter yours, and to look at the pen on the back of my hand. But you're allowing the creative themselves to kind of connect with you, and you got to open up and accept some piece of them. It's kind of empathy. You're accepting their reality to a certain degree so that you can connect your reality to theirs, and there's that synergy there. And accepting the ideas that come to you, accepting help, no matter where it comes from and what that help is or what they are. It may be unexpected, but accepting it, letting it in, listening for it first, and then once you see it, accepting it for what it is and realizing that it can help you. Connection with the ideas and your intuition. Your intuition being God, and whatever that means for you. For me, it means you're conscious, and those knee-jerk reaction, those feelings you get, the instinct and the intuition that you have, and the decisions that feel compulsive, but in a clear way, And then she defines art as getting something down, not thinking something up. I'll say that again. Art is getting something down, not thinking something up. And that's what the morning pages, again, are like. It's just getting it down. There's no strain in getting it down. The ideas are right there. You're just jotting them down. You don't have to be like, oh, what do I write next? Like the words are coming. Just get them out. And that's what the artistic process should be, is documentation. We are the instrument more than the author, she says. And I think it's the human ego that wants to get in the way and take credit for these things because of the ones that bring it to life, and it's seemingly coming out of nowhere. And, the world we live in, especially in entertainment, there needs to be a name and a face for these things, and that's why people have brands. And, I have a brand, and I'm the face of it. I'm the instrument that's bringing these ideas to life. They're flowing through me, but I'm not really the author. At least that's the ideology that I'm trying to instill within myself, to get out of my own way, to bring you the most authentic iteration of these ideas. And we'll get into authenticity and originality later, something she touches on in this chapter that really, really is good and changed my life. But that's kind of the first section of the chapter. There's some quotes in here I'd like to read, I believe. Art is an act of tuning in and dropping down the well. It is as though all the stories, paintings, music, performances in the world live just under the surface of our normal consciousness. You got to tap in, down in the well. We are the art's instrument more than the author of our work. What's another thing I would say? Once you accept that it is natural to create, you can begin to accept a second idea, that the Creator will hand you whatever you need for the project. The minute that you are willing to accept that help of this collaborator, you will see useful bits of help everywhere in your life. This voice frequently shows itself in synchronicity, which we've talked about in a couple chapters ago. Coincidences, things that are uncanny. They're not uncanny. They're not a coincidence. It's the synchronicity of the universe lining up in your favor. Learn to accept the possibility that the universe is helping you with what you're doing. God is the great artist, and artists like other artists. Expect the universe to support your dream, and it will. And so that kind of sums up the first section of the chapter. Listening, staying open, and realize that artistry is simply documentation of these ideas that are coming to you. And those kind of thoughts allow you to get your ego out of the way. You are not the owner and the creator of these ideas. You are simply the instrument, and that just allows the idea to exist within itself without alteration from you. And perfectionism is the next section. Some may call it getting it right, fixing it before I go any further, having standards. And I know I've done this too. I think it's part of the reason why it took me so long to get some of my music out, and why I took a while between each song, because I realized the potential of these songs, and I stacked them up to other people's music, and in a way that helped it be really good. It helped the music be better, and I don't regret that, but I do recognize how I was trying to make things more perfect than good, if that makes sense. Sometimes it was like a decision just to kind of make things more polished and clean than it was to bring out the art. And that's an important distinction. Unless you're going for polished and clean, unless that's the artistic idea you have, then that's what you serve. And we'll get into that later as well in this section. But perfectionism is not getting it right or having standards. What it really is a loop. An obsessive, debilitating, closed system, which I just reread that before I started this video, and I really like the idea of a closed system because, going a little bit of a tangent here, but I'm a firm believer that everyone's life and all of the universe is cyclical. Everything's just going in a cycle. Like your life over time is going in a cycle, and that loop, and what determines that loop and where it's going is the environment you're in, the things that you're consuming, whether that's ideas, food, your environment, the people you're around, those things dictate the loop that you go in, and that's, the routine of your day-to-day life and whatnot determines that loop. And perfectionism, as she describes it, an obsessive, debilitating, closed system, keeps that loop in one place, when in reality, we're free-flowing beings. We need to be looping around everywhere. That's how the universe works, and you are part of the universe. So you need to open up that system and loop somewhere else. And I think that goes for your daily life as well as your art and perfectionism. So bit of a tangent there, but I think it's important, and it's an idea I've been thinking about recently. What it really is as well is getting stuck in the details and losing sight of the whole. Which, wording it that way kind of puts me in a sticky spot to my previous point about my music. Is I think the focus on the details is what makes art great. And so I think that serves the art well, it serves the ideas well, and it makes the art more exciting when you have little Easter eggs, little tidbits, extra ad-libs, little details on a jacket. You know what I mean? The last 15, 10, 5% of the final product is kind of what make people and you step back and be saying, wow, this idea really is something special. And so I think that's important to note, that the details are still important, but you can't lose sight of the whole. And I think that's really what to be taken away there as far as perfectionism is not losing sight of the whole and not allowing those details to make you lose sight of the whole, even though they're still important. And this is the big kicker. This next idea is what really stuck with me, is the idea of originality. She uses that word here in kind of juxtaposition to perfection. And I'm going to read this little section, and then I'm going to tell you what I've been taking away from it. Instead of creating freely and allowing errors to reveal themselves... let me restart. Instead of creating freely and allowing errors to reveal themselves later as insights, we often get mired in getting the details right. We correct our originality into a uniformity that lacks passion and spontaneity. Do not fear mistakes, Miles Davis told us. There are none. And what I got from that section, she doesn't say it directly, but in that sentence, she's implying that originality and perfection are in opposition, and originality, and I wrote this in my book and in my notes here as well, whenever I'm recording, whenever I'm drawing, whatever, the first idea, the first recording, the first sketch, the first iteration is the most original. And think about it, literally, it's the original. Whether you want to go make another idea, like that seems so obvious when you put it out in words, but it really blew my mind, where it's like, because I want to be as genuine as I can, but I also want to be good. I want people to, if I'm going to be honest, I want people to think my art's good. Like, I want people to like it. I want people to think of it as respectable and high quality and taken care of. I want it to feel like it can stack up to the music that they already listen to as far as quality and listenability. But that being said, originality, it comes from the original idea. So those things, when I have my headphones on and I'm sitting on my microphone and I'm singing something, that version I hear in my headphones is the most original. And I need to get that through my head. And I hope you can get that some way through your head, if not all the way, that your first ideas are the most original. If you want to be an original person, if you want to be the most original version of yourself, you go with that first idea. You go with the first recording. You go with the first outfit choice you made in the morning. Whatever it is. Granted, it might not be, you may not like it later in the day, but it is the most original. And I think that's an important idea. Whether you want to stick to being the most original or you want to, it can still be authentic. It can still be true to you to go back and edit it. But I think it's good to think about that first idea as the most original If that's the adjective you want to be associated with, go with the first one. Go with the first take, as raw as it can be. So I know I kind of harped on that for a while, but I love that, and it's changed the way I think about music, and I hope it breeds better music out of me in the future. As well as that quote from Miles Davis: "Do not fear mistakes. There are none," and there really isn't. I mean, you don't want to go around in the world and hurt people, or hurt yourself, or be destructive. But in the same breath, there are no mistakes. There's schools of thought, there's moral codes that exist in the world that human beings adopt and subscribe to. But at the end of the day, some may argue with this, but there's no one, at least during your life, there's nothing outside of human beings that's going to say that what you did was wrong. I'm not condoning that anyone hurts anyone else, but you know what I mean? Like, no one's outside of other human beings shaming you and looking down on you for the quote-unquote terrible things that you did. There's nothing outside of that is telling you that you're wrong. And that's an extreme example, but it goes for the art as well. Like, there's no mistakes. And Miles Davis made jazz music where they played all 12 notes at any given time. So they played without a key, you know what I mean? Or they played in multiple keys at the same time. There's no mistakes. If you asked someone making a pop song, they would say that was wrong, or that's going to go off, that's going to be a poor decision. But there's no mistakes because it's all about the context. And I guess that's really what I mean about the human example and humanity thinking you did something wrong. It's all about the context. And you have the power to change the context in your mind. Are you going to allow it to be thought of as a mistake within your own head? Or are you going to allow it to just be what it is? Please think about that. And another quote I have from the book, it is, "Your ego that wants to write the perfect script, the perfect painting, the perfect song, that perfection is really, again, your ego trying to take ownership of the idea. And the more you can separate yourself from the idea, the more you can just let it be, because you're not trying to take credit for it. You're just being the instrument, not the author." And then to kind of caveat some of those ideas and what I wrestle with when it comes to perfection and letting things be, is that it's a matter of intention and what you're trying to do. And like I kind of briefly mentioned earlier, what if you're trying to make a Sabrina Carpenter-esque pop song where they really take their time to polish the instruments, make them sound very pleasing to the ear. It's not a rough acoustic guitar, not a rough electric guitar that you'd find in a garage recorded metal band, and maybe that's cool to you as well, But it's a spectrum of editing, and like I said earlier, you have your original idea, and then you have this version that's ultra hyper edited, and it can exist in that spectrum. And just know that the more editing you do, the more controlling of the idea that you do, the less authentic and original the idea is, because it's getting farther away from the original version. And that's not always a bad thing. But you need to know that that's where you're moving when you move towards more editing, more redoing, more reworking, more redrawing. What you're doing is moving away from the original idea, which can be fine, but you just want to understand that idea. At least I want to understand that idea. Okay. Perfectionism, down. Next section, risk. I honestly don't understand why she put these next two sections in the recovering a sense of connection. Maybe because they kind of get in the way of connection. So these are ideas that we need to face head on so that we can get further connected. But risk. What do we got here? Recovering your creativity hinges on our ability to move out of our head and into action. This leads us right to risk. And the human mind prioritizes avoiding danger and pain before ever seeking out pleasure and the benefits that go out and taking a risk. So I learned that from Tony Robbins, and it's a good way to think about human nature is you're going to move away from pain and before you ever move towards pleasure. So even if, and it kind of makes sense, like say there's something you really want on the other side. Say you're starving and there is just a buffet on the other side of this field, right? And then you're walking through this field and then all of a sudden a fire starts in the middle. You're going to stop and move away from that fire if it's too hot before you ever get to that food. And maybe this isn't the best example because the fire's in the way of the food. But my point being is that like your brain is going to try and keep you safe first before ever seeking out food or benefits or like anything that's a plus. You know, you're just trying to avoid minuses and danger before you're ever seeking a plus in your life. And I think that's important to understand that your brain's really good at that. And we're skilled, you know, how does she say it? Most of us are practiced at talking ourselves out of risk. We are skilled speculators on the probable pain of self-exposure. And so, all right, we're still recording. I got locked out on my computer there. But you're going to move away from the pain first. I think I drove that idea home. But know that you're very skilled at this potentially bad thing, which is to keep yourself safe, you know, and courage comes to mind when I hear that. Is like courage is understanding that you're at risk or understanding that you have fear and doing it anyway because you know that that pleasure is worth it. The fear is just not going to go away until you continue to go and do that thing and condition yourself, and then it's not fearful anymore. What else do I have written for this section? The real takeaway of the risk section is taking risks is living. If you're not taking risks, you're not living. Let me say that again. If you're not taking more risks, you're living less life. You're throwing your life away by taking less risks. That's the way I see it. You know, and the risk of these risks are meaningless in a lot of ways. Like I think of Alex Hormozy, which is someone that, you know, I get some good ideas from. And he basically, in a couple of different videos I've seen recently, he talks about how you can separate, or you can really just think out the dangers. And if you live in the developed world, there's really no dangers to looking like a failure or being untalented or people thinking that you're stupid or, you know, starting a business and failing or putting your music out there and no one likes it or writing a book that no one reads. What's the worst that could happen? You feel embarrassed, which is something we're trying to get over through this kind of stuff. And then people forget about it and you move on. You still have to go to work tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like nothing is actually going to hurt you. So I think it's really important to realize that like you're fine. You know what I mean? You're fine. And it's just the ego. It's just trying to like be accepted by the groups that you find yourself in, the people that you find yourself around. So seek to fail, because failure through the actions is the fastest way to internalize a lesson. You know, you're gonna internalize the lessons of life through those actions and failures faster and more solidly. You know, it can be more of a solid, concrete idea in your brain and a feeling than it is when you hear someone else talking about their failure and you imagine it for your own life. Doing it is going to be so much more concrete. So seek to suck is a quote I had. You know, seek to really suck at something and find a way to let go of yourself having to do it perfectly, because everyone who's ever done it amazing in whatever thing you want to do had to be terrible at the first time. Like, they had to be. Jimi Hendrix still had to learn how to play a G chord. Uh, George Lucas, an example she used here, still had student films when he was in film school or whatever that was just terrible. You know what I mean? Like, everyone has that stuff. So just get through it. Just get through it. And that's what courage is like. Even if you feel like you're not going to get through all these feelings, if you actually want to do it, then you need to just take the leap of faith and do it when you feel like crap about it, when you feel terrified, when you're on the brink of a panic attack, to press send or, press post and whatever it is. Like, get out there, kid, And the final section, jealousy, which I'm not going to say too much about this section. It's kind of short. But jealousy, people think of as a normal human emotion. And I think the biggest thing that you can take away in this section is jealousy is actually a map to your action. And I talked about anger in a similar way in a previous chapter, but jealousy is a map of what actions you need to take to move yourself forward, because what jealousy is saying is that there's only room for one of us. There's only room for one X, Y, and Z. There's only room for one person that can do this. There's only room for one person who can, feel the love and affection. There's only one person who can find success, who can be in that position. And there's room for all of us in a lot of these different arenas of life. There's room for all of us. So once you're willing to accept that anything worth doing, oh wait, I'm reading that off of there. It's a different section. Doesn't matter. But yeah, jealousy tells us what we need to do. And that was one of the exercises here, was to write out people that we're jealous of, why we're jealous of them, and what actions we can take. And what's the antidote, is the word she uses, to cure that jealousy. Well, it's to get better. It's to be better. It's to do the things that you see them doing that you wish you could do yourself. And then there's some other exercises. One that's really cool is archaeology and exercise, where you basically answer these questions. As a kid, I missed the chance to blank. As a kid, I lacked blank. As a kid, I could have used blank. And so it's basically all these open-ended questions about your childhood that are then you can flip on your head and say, oh, I need to give my childhood version of me. I need to give my inner child. I need to give me today those things to feel better and to heal yourself. But that's pretty much it. Again, week 7's got activities that I did some of them, but I still got to catch up on these weeks worth of activities. So that's where we're at. Week 8, recovering a sense of strength. I'm going to get to reading this over the next couple days, get back to my morning pages, and I will do my best to show up for week 8. But again, the handful of people that still watch these, I appreciate you. I appreciate you keeping me accountable. I know some of you reached out to me and said, hey, when are you doing the next vlog and stuff, and that's really cool that you care. And I love just knowing that if I can help one person by just sitting here on my couch and ranting, that's so cool. Because I think all these things that this book talks about are extremely human, and they're important to people's health. Their spiritual health, their mental health, their physical health, because it's all connected. To get out there and do what you really want to do, be creative, be open, and I'll see you next week.